Yeah, I'm kind of blacklisted. I haven't gotten a studio job in 15 years.
So you feel in a way that you are banned from the...
No, not in a way.
You are?
Yeah, I think.
So I really didn't have a chance to defend myself.
Right, yeah.
So the hardest part was calling friends and people that I worked with.
It's embarrassing, isn't it?
Okay, picture this. One day, you're everywhere. Your face is on movie posters. Your voice is in every trailer. And your name is shining bright in Hollywood. You're not just a movie star. You are the movie. Then suddenly, nothing. No goodbye, no scandal, no warning. You just vanish from the spotlight. That's exactly what happened to Val Kilmer. He didn't slowly fade away. He disappeared like a magician's final trick. And for years, people have been wondering, what really happened? Well, now Mel Gibson is finally speaking out. And the truth? It's darker and more complicated than anyone expected.
I have an answer for us. It's been a while.
Oh, you look great.
Val Kilmer suiting up as the Caped Crusader on Instagram one last time before his death.
Now, Val Kilmer wasn't your average actor. He was the youngest person ever accepted into Juilliard, trained in serious theater, and packed with raw, undeniable talent. He was charming, intense, and had that Hollywood glow casting directors loved. Sure, he had a bit of an ego, but when you're starring in hits like Top Secret, Top Gun, The Doors, and Tombstone, you kind of earn the right to be confident. His performance as Jim Morrison was so convincing, fans thought he was Morrison. And when he put on the Batman suit in 1995's Batman Forever, Val wasn't just another actor, he was at the top of the A-list. But right after Batman Forever, something strange happened. When it was time to film the next Batman movie, Batman and Robin, Val was nowhere to be found. No big announcement, no dramatic exit, he was simply replaced by George Clooney. And nobody explained why. It was just silence. Then years later, director Joel Schumacher finally aired out the drama in an interview. And let's just say he didn't hold back. He called Val psychotic, complained about spoiled, overpaid actors, and even said he prayed to never work with Val again. At one point, Schumacher said Kilmer didn't speak to him for 2 weeks and called it bliss. But here's where things get shady. Since when does being difficult get someone completely erased from Hollywood? Let's be real, plenty of actors have thrown tantrums, cursed out crew members, even thrown things on set, and they still win Oscars and land blockbuster roles. According to Mel Gibson, the real reason is that Val refused to play by Hollywood's unwritten rules. He didn't kiss up to the right people. He challenged authority. He questioned the system. And in a world where powerful people expect loyalty and silence, Val stood out, and not in a good way. Hollywood doesn't always punish bad behavior, but it does punish people who don't follow the script. And Val Kilmer, he wasn't just rewriting the script, he was tossing it out completely. And then came the whispers. The kind that don't make headlines, but follow you like a shadow. The kind that can end a career without anyone ever having to say your name out loud. That's what happened to Val Kilmer. He didn't just stop getting big roles, he got blacklisted. Quietly, subtly, but completely. And he knew it. In one raw and painfully honest interview, Val didn't sugarcoat it. When asked if people found him difficult to work with, he laughed a little and said,
But do you think that people found it difficult to work with you because of that?
Yeah, what's the one past difficult? Impossible?
Impossible.
Yeah, I'm kind of blacklisted. I haven't gotten a studio job in 15 years.
So you feel in a way that you are banned from the...
No, not in a way.
You are?
Yeah, I think.
But Val Kilmer wasn't angry at Hollywood. Not anymore. He was reflective, honest, vulnerable. He admitted that he used to speak up too much, complain too often, and didn't fully understand the business he was part of. He thought it was all about art. He thought being passionate about the work was enough. I had ideas, you know, he said. Insecurities I projected onto the business. He even joked about having an evil twin, who probably got him into trouble more than once. He didn't blame others, he blamed himself for not playing the game, for not being quiet, obedient, or grateful enough.
Outspoken about very specific things about the art. But it's a business. And I acted like it wasn't.
Because you are an actor.
I was a dumb actor. But I did complain quite a bit when I was younger. I didn't appreciate the business that afforded me the lifestyle that I very quickly enjoyed. very quickly. I starred in my first movie. I was the lead in the first play I did professionally.
But let's zoom out, because Val's story isn't just about one actor falling from grace. It's part of a bigger, weirder pattern. Around the late 90s, things got suspicious. Kilmer faded from the spotlight, right around 1998 to 1999. But he wasn't alone. Mel Gibson, Wesley Snipes, Brendan Fraser, they all started to vanish. Mel, once king of the box office, suddenly couldn't get a studio to return his calls unless he paid for the film himself. Wesley, he was thrown in prison over taxes, blamed on his accountant. Brendan Fraser, he disappeared after speaking up about being assaulted. Coincidence? The internet doesn't think so. And honestly, it's hard not to notice the pattern. Even Mel Gibson started connecting the dots. In a 1998 interview, he confessed that he began to feel paranoid, like something was off. There was a lot I couldn't understand, he said. Nobody explained it. Hollywood, he described, started to feel like one of those creepy saloons in old westerns, where the second the stranger walks in, everyone goes silent. They all stare at you, he said, like they're warning you, don't go into that house on the hill. He told himself he was being crazy, that he was imagining things. But then, years later, he realized he wasn't paranoid, he was right. And then comes the year 1999, a year that almost feels cursed. Stanley Kubrick releases Eyes Wide Shut, a movie full of masks, secret societies, and hidden truths. A movie that, let's be honest, felt like a direct metaphor for Hollywood's dark underbelly. And just before finalizing the cut, Kubrick dies. Not just dies, he dies suddenly. And allegedly, 25 minutes of the film are mysteriously cut after his death. What was in those missing minutes? No one knows. But guess what else happened in 1999? Val Kilmer drops off the A-list radar. It's hard not to connect the dots. And speaking of masks, think about it. Kilmer's Batman wasn't flashy or confident. He was cold, haunted, a man wearing a mask, not just for justice, but to hide from something. It was eerie, and maybe it wasn't just acting. Maybe Kilmer was trying to tell us something. And get this, he wasn't just an actor. He was documenting his own truth. For years he filmed everything, home videos, behind-the-scenes moments, even the quiet parts, as if he knew one day he might need proof, evidence, receipts. In his 2021 documentary, Val, you can feel the weight of it. I have thousands of hours of videotapes and film reels that I've shot throughout my life and career, he said. And then came that one line that stuck with viewers like a ghost in the room: shut the video camera off. To which he calmly replied, I will keep it on until we're in rehearsal. That wasn't just a refusal, it was resistance. Watching the film feels like witnessing someone trying to keep from being erased, not from memory, but from history. And here's where it gets chilling. Around the time Kilmer began fading from the spotlight, a darker cloud started creeping over Hollywood, the kind of cloud that whispered about flights, black books, and a certain island no one wants to name but everyone recognizes. The timing was uncanny. Kilmer's slow disappearance lined up almost too perfectly with the rise of Epstein's shadow. Did he refuse an invitation? Did he say the wrong thing at the wrong time? Was he simply not playing the game the way the others did? No one can say for sure, but the pattern is there. Too many names fell off the radar during that same era, and too many of them had one thing in common: they didn't stay silent. Now, in order for you to understand this a little better, let's rewind to 2015. That's when the script for Sound of Freedom was first written. A film based on the real-life work of former Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard, focused on rescuing children from tiking rings. Filming wrapped by 2018. You'd think, given the subject matter, this would be a major studio release, right? Wrong. The film was tossed around like a hot potato. Nobody wanted to touch it. It sat untouched for 5 years. Why? Here's where things start to get suspicious. Originally, it was supposed to be released by 20th Century Fox, but in 2019, Disney swooped in and acquired Fox, and with it, the rights to Sound of Freedom. And what did they do with it? Locked it away, vaulted, buried. For a movie about saving kids, that's when people started side-eyeing the whole situation. Why would a company known for fairy tales and childhood wonder bury a film about protecting children? Then came Mel Gibson, Hollywood's black sheep, always loud, always controversial, but also someone who's been calling out the dark underbelly of the industry for decades. Since the late 90s, Mel's been dropping cryptic, sometimes chaotic, sometimes too real commentary about the darkness in showbiz. He once described Hollywood as a twisted small town where everyone knows the secret, but no one talks. One of the most disturbing things he ever shared was about a well-known producer. He didn't name names, who allegedly said women on film, either naked or dead. Both is better. Mel wasn't just reacting, he was exposing. Over the years, he's spoken out about how the industry treats women, exploits children, and protects predators. So when Sound of Freedom finally got released independently, Mel's vocal support wasn't just PR, it felt personal. And then the unexpected happened. This controversial little indie film, made on a $14 million budget, blew up. Nearly $100 million worldwide. Grassroots support, packed theaters, endless word of mouth. But guess what? The mainstream media? Dead silent, or worse, openly hostile. Outlets like CNN, Rolling Stone, and The Guardian didn't just ignore it, they dragged it. Called it conspiracy bait. No in-depth analysis, no honest critiques, just straight-up dismissal. It wasn't about the film anymore, it was about what it represented. Meanwhile, Mel's been fighting to stay in the game. He's been hyping up Lethal Weapon 5, saying it's the best script of the whole franchise. It's ready, it's written, but no one wants to make it. And even he admits he doesn't understand why. But let's be honest, it probably has nothing to do with the script and everything to do with his name, the risk, the baggage, the label of being too controversial. And that's where the frustration comes in. Because let's be real, there are people in Hollywood who've done far worse and still got welcomed back like nothing ever happened. So why not him? Interestingly, a few voices have stood by him. Robert Downey Jr., the comeback king himself, famously vouched for Mel during his lowest moments. More recently, Andrew Garfield defended him too, especially while promoting Hacksaw Ridge, which Mel directed. Garfield even said, "Everyone deserves second, third, even fourth chances." But for Mel, that chance still seems stuck in limbo. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's power, maybe it's a system that punishes some while protecting others. Whatever it is, Mel and Kilmer have one thing in common. They were loud when it was safer to stay quiet. And maybe, just maybe, that's why they were pushed out of the spotlight. Now here's where things take a darker turn. Mel Gibson started hinting at something deeper, something more sinister behind Val Kilmer's fading star in Hollywood. He wasn't just saying Val lost his edge or got sick. No, Mel was suggesting that Kilmer knew too much, that the real price of fame in Tinseltown wasn't just hard work or talent, it was your soul. And Val, he wasn't about to sign that spiritual lease. He wasn't going to play puppet to an industry that demanded silence in exchange for success. According to Mel, Val saw behind the curtain, asked the wrong questions, stepped on the toes of people you're not supposed to question, and then, just like that, the opportunities dried up. We're talking about a man who went from blockbuster icon to media ghost. Roles vanished, projects disappeared. Directors who once called him a genius suddenly stopped picking up the phone. Studios acted like he didn't exist. The media, always hungry for a headline, flipped the script on him. Suddenly he wasn't brilliant anymore. He was difficult. Not deep, but egotistical. The narrative got warped, twisted into something palatable for public consumption. Val wasn't being silenced, he was just taking a step back. But Mel painted a different picture, one that sounded more like exile than retirement. He believed Val Kilmer was pushed out, not because of cancer, not because of age, but because he didn't play by the unspoken rules. The same shadowy system Mel's been calling out for years allegedly turned its back on Kilmer for refusing to comply. And now, people are starting to connect the dots. Was it really about ego, or was it about exposure? Did Kilmer's refusal to stay silent make him a threat? Because here's the thing, by the time he returned to the screen in Top Gun Maverick, fans saw it as a triumphant comeback. But if you rewatch that scene now, knowing everything we do, it doesn't feel like a return. It feels like a farewell, a soft, heartbreaking goodbye. The voice you heard in that emotional exchange with Tom Cruise? Not even his real voice. It was patched together with artificial intelligence, old recordings, and sheer willpower. Val wanted to do that scene. He needed to. But physically, he was fighting an invisible war just to get through each day on set. Behind the cameras, it was brutal. Every shoot day left him exhausted. Every line was a mountain to climb. It wasn't just about throat cancer anymore. It was everything. His body was in rebellion, and his spirit was holding on, but just barely. And then, after Maverick, Val went quiet. Too quiet. He stopped doing interviews, stopped attending events, faded from public life entirely. Most people assumed he was just enjoying peace, maybe finally relaxing after decades in the spotlight. But that wasn't it. He wasn't relaxing. He was disappearing, slowly, painfully, quietly. His friends started noticing first. Calls went unanswered. Texts got left on read, or never even delivered. Some hadn't seen him in months. Even family members were in the dark, but nobody pressed too hard. He was Val Kilmer, after all, the enigma, the artist, the man who once turned solitude into an art form. People figured that's just Val being Val. But this wasn't a man choosing solitude, this was someone slipping away. And then came April 1st. The world woke up to news of his death. Many hoped it was just an April Fool's prank, some twisted hoax, but it wasn't. Val Kilmer was gone. The official cause? Pneumonia. But if you know Hollywood, you know that pneumonia is their favorite euphemism. It's the natural cause that seems to show up far too often. Kim Porter, Heavy D, Andre Harrell, all gone. All reportedly from heart attacks or pneumonia. But the whispers behind the scenes? They told a different story. Let's talk about Kim Porter for a second, Diddy's ex. She died from pneumonia too. At least that's what they said. But did you know her first coroner's report ruled it a homicide? They found toxins in her system. Poison. Not enough to scream foul play, but just enough to raise eyebrows. Andre Harrell? Same story. Heart attack, but no prior signs. And then Heavy D? He was found face down. Another sudden passing. It's like there's a script, a convenient exit plan for those who get too loud or too close to something they're not supposed to touch. So when Val's autopsy came back, people started looking a little harder. Yes, he had cancer. That's public knowledge. But the report detailed more than just illness. It painted a picture of a man wasting away. He had lingering infections from old surgeries that hadn't healed. His body showed signs of severe malnutrition, muscle wasting, pain, and not just physical, emotional too. He was on strong prescription painkillers, the kind you don't take unless you're living in constant agony. Not enough to overdose, but enough to let everyone know. This man was suffering, quietly, deeply. Some of those infections could have been treated, the coroner noted, but they weren't because Val didn't ask for help. He wasn't speaking up. He wasn't letting anyone in. The same man who used to light up the screen was now sitting in the dark, battling a silent war no one could see. He had his kids, his journals, his paints, but he was also isolating, drawing further into himself, preparing maybe for the end. And then there was the Batman video. Just days before he died, he posted a tribute, a moment that fans now see with new eyes. He looked frail, but there was something peaceful in his expression, something final. "I have an animal for us," he said, his voice soft, eyes distant. "It's been a while," he smiled. But now, that clip feels like a goodbye wrapped in nostalgia, like the closing page of a book we didn't realize was ending. Val Kilmer wasn't just a movie star, he was a whistleblower in disguise, a man who wore a cape on screen and carried a burden off it. He dared to say no in an industry built on yes men. He questioned things you weren't supposed to question. He stepped back, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Because silence, in his case, might have been the only shield he had left. And if Val Kilmer was blacklisted for speaking up, then what does that say about the ones who stayed silent? Who else made that deal? Who else traded truth for survival? Maybe Kilmer's silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Maybe it was the only form of protection he had left, a way to keep his soul intact while the machine tried to grind him down. So now we're left with the aftermath. A loss that feels heavier than we expected. A goodbye that doesn't feel complete. And a haunting question that lingers in every frame of Maverick, every quiet post, every piece of art he left behind. What really happened to Val Kilmer? Comment below. And if that shook you, you're not alone. But you're definitely going to want to watch our next video.